Hey, y'all. Hey, this Voices in the Struggle, brother Reggie. You on mute, bro? Unmute yourself. Can't hear you. Over there doing sign language.
I'm the main man, Big Ant. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you good now. We on there. We official. We're official.
Good.
We back.
Hey, we are back after a long hiatus with Voices in the Struggle. Brother Reggie and I have relocated.
Yeah.
And but you know, our topics are universal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter geographical location. You know what I mean?
We can talk about it. We're gonna talk about it.
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, man.
So how the hell you been, Brother Reggie?
Yeah, I've been good, man. I've been good. Trying to stay cool. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to stay cool and trying to stay out of the car because gas costs too much, you know?
Gas costs too much. Hey, I work from home and I'm still complaining about gas. That's a problem.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, I don't even want to go nowhere. Gas costs too much. Ubers done went up. Everybody got problems these days.
So, hey, we are back with all things relevant media. We are one of the many black shows that they have on, giving you the uncut, unadulterated truth. Nobody gets paid for this. We're doing this to make sure that you, as our listeners, and particularly our black listeners, get the truth. What Reggie and I say, or any guest say on our show, doesn't mean that all things relevant media agree with it nor endorses it. We are just using their platform as a black media. Okay. So we're going to be speaking about gun violence today. So we have a very special guest, Dr. Joy Allen. If you could bring on Mr. Allen, Mrs. Allen.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hello.
How you doing, Dr. Allen?
I am wonderful, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm honored to be here.
Hey, thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Is that echo with me?
Who was that? Which one is that?
That's me. Okay, so Dr. Allen, if you would like to give a little intro, let people know who you are.
Absolutely. So I'm first a wife and a mom here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm very, very proud of that. I am also a pastor, and professionally, I work in clinical research. So if you're wondering why I'm here talking about guns and gun violence, it's one of those things that I got into just 6 years ago. And I quickly became an instructor, fell in love with the sport of firearms, and of course got involved in the community, realizing that, hey, there's nobody out here at that time that looks like me, and representation matters. So it became one of my missions to get myself in a position where I could help train other instructors and other people just in the community to make sure that we are aware of our rights and able to exercise them safely. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, we're happy to have you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Hold on a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
A little bit of an echo, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I knew she was going to do it. I knew it. He is the owner and founder of E3. God, dog, this is killing me, y'all.
Yeah. Reverb that is. Mine, yours, ours.
Can y'all still hear me now?
There we are.
She is the owner and founder of E3 Personal Defense and Safety LLC. She is the CEO of In Her Pieces Ladies Shooting Club. She's NRA certified. She's a training counselor. She's USCCA certified training counselor and instructor that is NAGA certified. She is IFSA certified firearm specialist, Glock certified armorer, advanced law enforcement rapid response alert, certified civilian response to active shooter events, crash instructor, North Carolina Department of Justice certified concealed carry handgun instructor. She's on the leadership team of Triangle North Carolina Gun Club. She's again with the National African American Gun Association. She's a chapter co-leader of Armed Women of America and the Well Armed Women. So I knew you was going to do it, Dr. Allen.
He made me sound good. I appreciate it. Uh-oh, I think
again. You muted. He's still talking.
Good old technology, right?
Yeah. Unmute yourself.
Unmute?
There we are. We hear you now.
Yeah.
You hear me now?
We hear you now.
Okay, so you have accomplished a lot in 6 years.
Yeah.
I got to tell you. And you know, as a black person, then as a black woman, you know what I mean? That is a hell of a task.
Mm-hmm.
So the hat goes off to you.
Thank you.
So here we are again talking about gun violence. And this talk comes around every time there's a mass shooting. We have a talk and nothing happens. Then there's another mass shooting. So what is your take on gun violence, Dr. Allen, in America?
My take is that while it is an issue, unfortunately, the media doesn't talk to us about real gun violence. And I want to be careful about how that's interpreted. We all of our hearts break when we hear about children being shot up, when we hear about people being literally targeted and hunted because of their skin color. But at the end of the day, most of the gun violence that takes place in America is happening in the streets all day, every day, and we never ever hear about it. Yeah. And unfortunately, that gun violence is driven by illegal gun owners, not those of us who are following the law, not those of us who are doing what we're supposed to do. And frankly, you know, it causes issues because we end up arguing the wrong argument, in my opinion, right? And what we end up trying to do is somehow cripple or penalize those who are following the rules to try to cover up a problem that we're really not dealing with at the root cause. And so ultimately, that's my take on the gun violence issue. It's not new. And I just don't think we're going to get rid of, when I say we, the government, we're not going to go after the real issues because there's too much money involved.
It's too much money involved, in my personal opinion. There's too much money involved, and the IRA controls the government, a portion of the government.
They got a lot of lobbyists. You know, they got big pockets, so they can go.
Absolutely.
They can go to these congressmen, senators, and say, "Okay, this is what I want you to vote for."
Absolutely.
If you need this money for your campaign,
right,
then you will say this,
right,
and they end up becoming puppets.
Right, that's it. And a lot of people,
and another take I have that to really deal with gun violence in America, you have to deal with denying white men access to guns. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Most of the times when a black person is killed by a gun or gun violence, it's geographical, meaning we are killing where we are. The white male who is the number one terrorist in America, the white male, they are the mass killers. And they're not going to be dealt with, because if you had a black mother that would have drove their son to Kenosha with the illegal AR-15, dropped them off, then that mother would be in trouble as well as the son. But he's not in trouble. Kyle Rittenhouse is labeled as a hero, right? Because this is the behavior that white folks are used to. So America would never deal with the gun violence in America, and if black people were the problem, and if our schools are so bad, how come white schools are getting shot up instead of black schools?
Right.
I hate to make everything a black and white issue, but you can't talk about gun violence in America without talking about a racial issue. You know what I mean? Because gun laws really didn't change until you had groups like the Deacons for Self-Defense who start protecting their own land.
Yeah.
until you had the Black Panthers show up on the steps in California. That's when the gun laws changed. When
Right.
black people started arming themselves. But long as you have white people killing white people in a mass um, um, in a mass setting, then they're not going to deal with gun violence. They're too used to black people killing black people. That's
Right.
why you can coin the term black on black crime. But you never hear white on white crime. You never hear Asian on Asian crime. It's just black on black crime.
I think
So
we have to be mindful too that mass shootings happen all the time, and I'm not gloating about that. That's not a good thing.
mhm,
But we don't hear about most mass shootings. But by
mhm,
legal definition, we've had over 400 this year.
Mm.
mhm.
Not that many have made the news, right? So at the end of the day, a part of my opinion about this is gun violence. We also have to deal with whether you want to call it mental health, whether you want to call it demons, whether
Yep.
there are other issues. There's something wrong with a person who would take a firearm and walk into a school or a church or a grocery store and take life, regardless of what color there's something wrong with that mentality. And the truth of the matter is that there's an entitlement issue in America with certain demographics. I'll put it that way. I can tell you right now, my children, the way I was raised, my mama would have knocked me in the next week for taking her lipstick without the
Exactly.
idea of taking a firearm or hearing a parent say, I didn't know that my child was building a bomb in the garage. How does that happen?
How does that work?
Right.
Entitlement
How
is
does that work?
exactly. So there's some other things that are going on in America. And as we are matriculating through history and things are changing, at the end of the day, there are a lot of social issues, a lot of emotional issues, and a lot of spiritual issues that need to be dealt with. It's not about a gun. If people are evil, they'll be evil with the vehicle. They'll
Right.
be
Mhm,
by starting a fire.
mhm.
We've seen it throughout history, and that's the real challenge that we're dealing with.
Mhm. That's very true. Like you said, you hit it on the head with the spiritual, especially the mental. I think
Yeah.
they don't address that enough. The mental health of these folks who are doing the mass shootings. Even you can even go back to in our neighborhoods. It's a
Mhm.
mental health issue that we're shooting each other like we're doing. You don't like yourself, so I'm shoot you. So the mental health thing is real big. And for the global thing, the mass shootings, they see
Mhm.
that every day on the news. You come in killing 10, 12 people. What's wrong with your mind? Who
Yes.
didn't see the signs? Or like they say, did you do a thorough background check of this person?
Mhm.
Okay, if you did a background check and asked some of his references or her references, you might see they might say no, that
Mhm.
person doesn't need a gun. So I'm starting there is an important part. The background checks they don't do.
Mhm.
They should do better, just to eliminate some of these folks. Then you get the ones out there who are going to do it anyway because they got a issue with whatever
Mhm.
Mhm.
person's color, person's gender, person's sexual orientation.
Mhm.
They have those issues. There's a mental health issue too, but you have some fools out there too.
Absolutely. And where's the village?
Right.
And I know I might be older than some of the viewers, but I'll tell you this. We all had that uncle or that cousin that we knew was crazy, we knew was
Yep.
drunk.
Yep.
And you know what we did? We talked about them in the corner, but we protected them.
Right.
We
That's
made
true.
sure they didn't have access to certain things. We made sure they did not represent our family in certain venues.
That's true.
The village. And why is it that when we do have a publicized mass shooting, I'm not even going to dignify him with a name, but there's a mass shooter right now. His mother is a public speaker
Mm.
because her child walked into a school and
Yep.
killed people. That is wrong. There's a big issue with that. And where was the family? Why aren't families being held accountable? These are all things that culturally there's a disconnect, right? Because, you know, you can say the Black experience in America definitely justifies some mental health issues. There's some things we
Absolutely. Absolutely.
are taught and we are accountable by our village, by whether that's your church, your family, your synagogue, whatever. We're held accountable, and there are certain things we are just not going to do.
Hmm.
That is proof that it can be done. Someone just needs to take accountability and responsibility for it.
I totally agree.
Absolutely. So Corey Brooks, welcome. Corey Brooks is the owner and CEO of Locked and Loaded Firearms. And he has also his Locked and Loaded Firearms podcast. He is also a member of NAGA, and he is a USCCA certified instructor and a USCCA training counselor. Welcome, Brother Corey Brooks. How are you?
Think he froze.
Yeah, I think he froze there.
I think Corey froze. Corey froze.
But you know, I guess he'll pop back in. Yeah. But back to your point, Dr. Allen, you know, the white shooters, the white males mainly, they normally get the avenue of they had a mental health issue. You know, the African American shooter doesn't get that option. You know, what was his condition that made him want to shoot? You know, had to be poverty. He was frustrated or something. But the white male shooter, and in any crime, get the out of a mental health thing. I tell you, I've had guns in my house for a very long time. I've never locked them up. My girls knew where they were. We talked about it. You know what I mean? And I'm raising two girls. So, but they never had that door closed unless they were changing.
Right.
After you finish changing, open that door.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the white parents are not held to the same standards as black parents. Because when something happens with a black child, they look at the parents, they look at their education, they look at where they were raised, and it's as simple as them looking, saying he had a mental health issue. One thing I do like about, and I hate to say this, but I do like about Dylan Ruth. And for all that you know, don't remember, he's the guy that walked in the church, Charleston, in Charleston, South Carolina, and shot 9 people. He said he did not want to cop the mental health plea. You know, much as I hope he burned, I can respect him for that because that would have been a way out for him. So, and most of the school shooters, 4 out of 5 are planned. They make a social media post about their violence, about what they're going to do. And one or more person knew that they were going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, with all this, and nothing is still being done.
Right.
You know.
So let me ask Dr. Allen, maybe you can answer this for me. So I know back in, say, 20, 30 years ago, when everybody would say, take the guy outside, with children, we had to go outside.
Yes.
It's like you knew your neighbors, you knew the children, you knew everybody. Nowadays, everybody's inside. So you might know they have a child over there, or boy over there, and you might go to school with them, but you don't know that child. So it's not, you can't get a red alert like, okay, they shouldn't be having the gun, or, you know, you don't know if they have one. So I think nowadays that's a big issue too, because you don't know, okay, I don't even know this child or this person over here. I never see them. So I don't know what they're capable of, and I don't know what they have, and I don't have nobody who can tell me, because they come outside. I think that might be an issue too.
It is, but you know, I'll say too, we have to make it our business to pry a little bit. Now, I understand everybody, you know, I've got 2 kids that aren't little anymore. Mine are 18 and 22. And I'll be honest, some people can't talk to me about my children.
Right.
But at the same time, I knew from the moment they were born, as much as I love them, my kids ain't perfect.
Right.
Someone knocked on my door who was genuinely concerned. You know, my child is somewhere they shouldn't have been, or they heard them say something that was out of character. As a parent, I am taking on, and I'm going to say this, the law doesn't have to require me to do it for me to do it, to be a parent who says, care about my child and their well-being. And if you are warning me about something that I need to react to, then I am going to react to that and make sure mine are okay. So I will say that I struggle a little bit. I get that it's difficult to parent now. Trust me, I know. But at the same time, the government is giving these people a scapegoat. And at the end of the day, Yes, mental illness, mental awareness, mental health, that's a concept and that is a factor, but it is first the responsibility of the parent. It should not be the responsibility of everybody else in society to be concerned with some crazy person who can't deal with their own issues.
Right.
Families need to be held accountable across the board, and I agree with you. There's a disconnect discrepancy based on your ethnicity. That needs to change. And if it doesn't, because of the government, we need to demand that change, take care of it as a society and as citizens.
Dr. Allen, you do a podcast as well, don't you?
I do, yes.
Okay. When does your podcast come on, and how can people see it?
It is usually on Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. and it's on all of the podcast networks. It's Spreaker.com.
Okay, what's the name of your show?
It is called The Favor Factor. I went blank for a second. The Favor Factor, yes.
The Favor Factor. We'll put a post on our page. So I think we're back. He's not frozen anymore. The owner and CEO of Locked and Loaded Firearms and Locked and Loaded Firearms podcast, USCCA instructor, USCCA coach, Brother Corey Brooks. How are you, Mr. Brooks?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's a beautiful day. You know,
Yes.
it's always
That's it.
to get up and you get at it. You know, I took my nephew to the range today. You know, he's 9 years old and he absolutely loves it and adores it. So that was a good thing.
That's it, man. You got to start them early, man. A lot of times we're fighting bad stereotypes of black people. Not stereotypes, but the truth of black people don't want to have guns in their house growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, that ring loud. And we have to start them early, man. Take them to the range early. That way they'll know, hey, I can't take this gun to school.
Right.
They'll know how to properly use a gun.
Right. There you go.
So
It's all about the education, and I tell a lot of my students when they come to my class, in Illinois, we have to get what is called a FOI card. That's Firearms Owner's Identification Card. That's in order for you to get a ammunition or a firearm. And I tell them, go get your child one. They're like, wait a minute, I didn't know that children can have them. I thought you had to be 18. Like, no, just assume that. As soon as your child comes out the womb, you can go get them a FOI card.
Okay.
And that's their right. I hate that we have to ask the government for a right to self-defense, but these are the times that we live in, and hopefully we can turn that around because we in the black community, women are leading in gun sales and purchases. Right? This has been happening for the past couple of years. Women have been leading the way on taking classes, on purchasing firearms and ammunition. So we have to pay attention to that. And I think sometimes with some of the people that call for gun control, they have to reinvent the wheel. That's why we have new terminology just about every day for the same thing. Well, it was assault rifle, now it's an automatic rifle, or it's the weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction. These are all terms that they figure that we can readily identify and become very I don't want to say innate, but very disturbed by those words.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to the AR-15 because they throw that around a lot. Like, that's a crazy conversation. But what do you guys? Because I am in favor for before anybody purchase a gun, I think there should be a background check. I think the problem is, a lot of guns are being bought at gun shows by people who are not supposed to have them, and you can't stop really people that are not supposed to have them, and we are suffering from that. But I think everybody, before they buy a gun, should have a background check. What are your thoughts on that?
Can I go?
Go ahead.
All right. So in the great state of Illinois that we stay in order for you to do a person-to-person transfer, that means gun shows also, you have to take the person's FOID card and you have to run it through the system. So there is a background check system. Even when you buy a firearm, there's a background check. A lot of people thought that when Georgia went constitutional carry, they thought it was a lawless carry. You still have procedures and everything that you have to go through, and there's still a law in place. It's just saying you don't have to get the government's permission. But in Illinois, you have to go through all this. You have to get a FOIA card. Your FOIA card is going to take possibly 30 days. In order to get your concealed carry, it's going to take 90 days. It's supposed to take 90 days. But if that's if you submit your fingerprints. Yeah, that's if you submit your fingerprints. If you don't submit your fingerprints, you have to wait 120 days. Right? So we have all of this restriction in Illinois, and last year we still wound up with 841 homicides. That means that the background checks that they are trying to put in place, that's been in place, have not worked. And in Illinois, when you buy a firearm, you have to wait 72 hours because there's a 72-hour cool-off period. The 72-hour cool-off period has been proven time and time again to have not worked. They like to blame it on what Illinois does is blame the other states. They want to blame Illinois, not Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, all the states where you can cash and carry. What is cash and carry? You can go in with your cash and buy that firearm at the same time. After the background check, you're gonna get a background check no matter what firearm you purchase. And even here in Illinois, when we talk about the gun show loophole, there's no gun show loophole in Illinois. They still are getting firearms. They're still committing homicides. I'm gonna say 841 homicides, 794 shot and killed.
I wonder what are the statistics on that for people that's being shot and killed with illegal guns, opposed to people who are legal gun owners.
That would be I couldn't say what that statistic would be. That would be more in depth of a conversation as to how it's being reported by the CPD and how it's being reported by Cook County Sheriff, and how those statistics are being played out at the FBI, which collects all of that data and reports it.
So you're not in favor of background checks for everybody?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Allen.
I will say I am in favor of background checks, but I agree it's already been done. The reason I'm in favor for it is because I do believe it can be a deterrent. However, that being said, it's not going to prevent crime. Again, at the end of the day, a criminal is a criminal, right? And when it comes to the loopholes, I agree here in North Carolina as well, you have to have a background check to purchase any firearm. Loopholes are not happening at gun shows. Loopholes are occurring, those straw purchases, they're occurring when the people who have money, and I'm gonna be honest, most of them don't look like us. We're dealing with the same thing we dealt with the whole war on drugs, right? We wanna bust up the people in the streets, but they're not the ones that are causing the issue. They're not the ones that are bringing in the contraband. So what's happening is those people who have the money, the means, and the political connections to purchase large amounts of firearms and then sell them on the streets illegally. That's how guns are getting on the streets. And the statistics do show that most of the crimes happen with illegal firearms or firearms that were legally purchased and owned, but someone has obtained illegal access to them. So, I agree. I'm fine with the deterrent because maybe it is stopping someone. I don't know that we have the statistics to prove that, but having a background check, I would even be in favor of a short waiting period, which we do not have in North Carolina, to keep people from sort of making these emotional purchases and things of that sort. But again, I'm saying that from a personal perspective, there are no statistics to back up that would even help either. I want us to be safe. I want our children to be safe, but at the same time, I'm just adamant that we cannot do that by punishing legal gun owners and people who are following the rules. It's not going to stop crime because criminals are criminals. They don't care about the rules.
Absolutely. And it goes back to my prior statement that, we'll never deal with gun violence, just like we'll never deal with immigration, but we'll never deal with gun violence because America would never deny white males, especially white males, from money with purchasing guns. It just won't happen.
The constitutional right is in the Constitution.
Right. They are NRA backed.
Right. Exactly. They got to be ready just in case the government turns on them. They got to be ready with their well-armed militia.
Yeah.
So they got to have. I see it as twofold. They waiting for the government. If the government does something, they have their guns. Or if black people wake up and we got guns, they waiting on us too. So it's twofold on that. So they got to be ready either way. That's what
So let's switch gears a little bit. Yeah. I'm ready to put my AR-15 on and walk through Walmart. You know what I mean? Why is everybody so scared of an AR-15 when it's classified as a pistol? I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the AR-15.
I don't think it's necessarily classified as a pistol. It depends on barrel length. So if you're over under 16 inches, then it's considered AR pistol. But if it's over, then it's considered a rifle. So rifles are considered by 16 inches, and then shotguns are considered by 18 inches overall length. So one thing is the misconception or the misunderstanding of AR-15. A lot of times when I start my class, this is how it started. I said, what does AR-15 stand for? Every single student says assault rifle. I say it's not an assault rifle, it's a rifle. They're like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, well, they're like, what does the AR stand for? The AR stands for Armalite. That's the company that invented it. That's the company that started with the AR-15, and that's why it's patented after that. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, now you know. The thing is, they've taken these words and twisted them, and the AR-15 has become the big boogie man. But it's one of the most effective ways of us actually protecting our home. And even with that, my wife is 5'4", 125 pounds. Right? She may not be able to handle a 9mm as the way she may be able to handle an AR pistol or AR rifle that I have, that I own.
Absolutely agree.
Okay. Let me ask y'all this: since all y'all gun owners, I don't own a gun. There's on protection right here.
Shame on you, brother Reggie.
I got a gun right there. You see
your protection knocked out, no?
Yes, it is. That was back in the day. It'll be bigger, but no. So y'all gun owners. So these semi or these fully automatic rifles and all that good stuff. What, in your opinions, what is the purpose of those? You know, in your opinion, why do we need those type guns?
There are certain states that may allow it. There's a lot of states that don't, but also a fully automatic rifle is not allowed. It's actually banned by the NFA. So there is no fully automatic rifle. And what is a semi-automatic and automatic? What does that stand for? What's the difference between that? Automatic means if you take one trigger pull, you're letting off a whole burst of fire. I mean, not fire, but a whole burst of rounds. Semi-automatic means one trigger pull, you're taking one shot. And so where people get it mixed up as far as it's automatic, there's some people that use the switch. But even if you have a switch, the Glock that goes on the Glock, in order for you to get that switch legally, you have to have an FFL. And an FFL, you go through a more stringent background check from the ATF. They're going to come by. They're going to look at all of your stuff. Pardon me. But you can't outright go buy a machine gun. And people think that you can go buy a machine gun. That's not the truth. That's further from the truth.
If I could add to that, an AR-15 is a semi-automatic rifle. It is no different than the semi-automatic rifles that all of our grandfathers are using to hunt. The difference is the long magazine intimidates some people. Sometimes having that frontward grip intimidates people. But at the end of the day, you can't ban an AR-15 because you would have to ban the type, which is semi-automatic rifle across the board. AR-15 is like a style. It's not a type, right? It's a semi-automatic. And even if you got rid of the larger magazines, a good shooter, I have a semi-automatic rifle that's not an AR-15. It only takes a 10 round mag. I can shoot that just as quickly as I can an AR-15. So that's one thing. And then also to Corey's point, a lot of people think that these automatic weapons are illegal. I'm going to say this again, not if you have enough money. You can get a tax stamp, right? So the things that are out there, a lot of them are illegal, but legally, if you have $60,000, you can go and get a fully automatic weapon. But guess what? right within that rule, within the idea that you have to pay that much money for a tax stamp, exists discrimination. Automatically, from an economic perspective, when you start to regulate these firearms in this way, you're going to cut certain people off from having access to certain things. So, I say to people all the time, there's some folks out here with money that have things that should scare you a whole lot more than my little AR-15.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
people that you can buy a tank. There's people can buy a tank.
Yeah, I was just about to say they got tanks out here. Well, the police got them, and regular people probably got them hidden somewhere. But yeah, you can buy all
If
that.
you have the money, you can do it.
Exactly. So I see we got 3 people on the line. Who's on the line? Introduce yourself to the audience. Nobody. Okay. Well, let me see. Let me find my next question then. Since y'all said that, with the automatic weapons, that's good stuff. But I don't see them banning anything at all. No weapons. They're only going to add more weapons to it with that capacity of that. But I think it's like apples and oranges. You're gonna have folks over here doing the right thing, like you say. You got the folks over here that ain't gonna care what you're saying. They're gonna do what they want to do. And I'm gonna give it to my children, even though I know their mind is messed up. I'm gonna let them use it. And if somebody's bullying them, whatever they do, they do. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I also think there should be some type of mandatory training for someone who is a new gun owner. When we're ready to get a driver's license, we have to get our learner's permit first and drive and get that. And same thing with a motorcycle license. Almost anything. There's a training element to you before you can operate anything. And I think there should be some type of training before you're able to be a gun owner.
I don't agree.
No.
Okay.
All right. The reason why I don't agree,
Mm-hmm.
when we have these type of conversations, we never talk about the poor and oppressed people. There's not one gun range in the city of Chicago. There's not one gun range in the city of Chicago, but there in the city, well, in the suburbs, you have multiple gun ranges in the city of Chicago and in the Chicagoland area.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one. So now we don't think about the poor and oppressed people that have to catch the bus, which you can't even carry on the bus. Right? You can't carry your firearm on the bus in the state of Illinois. Right? You can't carry on public transportation. So you want to go to the range and practice. That becomes very expensive to people that's just living day to day.
That's a good point. I've never been to a place that that doesn't have a gun range. That's a very good point.
But the thing is, that's why we have this discussion because, all right, so we have not one gun range in the city of Chicago, and then we have to go out to the suburbs, and we still have a murder rate of what 840 homicides, 794 shot and killed. So that means that we talking about requirements. Not everybody can afford those requirements. When we say we want you to take a course, what instructor can charge as much as he wants to. Not everybody's gonna have that $100 laying around. Yes, I understand that there are a lot of people out there that go buy the Louis, Gucci, and all the other stuff, but I don't care about that. What I do care about is a woman that's leaving a battered relationship that has nothing to her name, and she has to be able to defend herself. We don't stick up with them.
So how do you because proper gun ownership and being able to use a gun properly comes with confidence, comes with training. How does somebody get that training without even, because I've talked to plenty of women when I was in Savannah who purchased a gun out of need, that, hey, I need a gun during these times, but hey, I also need training. So how do we get to those people, especially in your situation, because it's a challenge for you down there. How do you get those people trained so they can have the confidence to properly use that gun to defend themselves?
Well, one of the things is forming the organizations within our communities. 761st was formed that you will only pay a $35 annual fee, $35 annual fee, and then we would give you a free class, which is the initial assessment.
What is the 761st?
That's the 760 Gun Club in Chicago. That is the Chicago chapter of the National African American Gun Association.
Okay.
That's the chapter that I'm president
I knew that most people didn't know that. Go ahead.
Okay. But the thing is with that, right? So when we have to form our own organizations, we have to form some way that we can give back to our community. I have a free, and there's plenty of sponsors out there that will help. There's plenty of sponsors. USCCA is planning to help me with a free kids class that I'm hosting August 6th. You see, we don't want to go knocking on these doors and talk to these people because whether we feel like they're white or we feel like they are not on our side. You know what? Sometimes that conversation needs to be had. If you say you support us and our community and our strife, then guess what? This is what I'm going to need from you. And we need to stop saying that we don't need to have these conversations with other demographics. Yes, we do have to have this conversation with other demographics, and we need to go out and say this is what the Black community needs, and it's not going to be a comfortable conversation. But we back to the point at hand is we have to think about the poor and oppressed people. You have to think about an elderly woman that's barely making it in life. Everything we just had meat, we just had our daily, not daily, but everything that we buy. We got inflation right now. Gas is skyrocketing. People have to make decisions at the pump. It's going to be hard for people to even take classes now because they have to make a decision, a life or death situation. I hate to say it that way, but I got to get back and forth to work. So me paying this $100 or this $120 at this time is not feasible for me. But I still have the right to defend myself. I still have the right to life. I should not be a victim, and we need to stop being victims.
So what the 761st did is you filled that gap within your community.
Right.
That is outstanding. That is outstanding.
I have to agree with that. And I think, we all have to take the responsibility. And my husband and I did the same thing with E3 Personal Defense. We don't take any money from that. We started partnering with churches and civic groups because I realized when I started getting into the gun game, people who need it can't afford it. I deal with women all the time who have to make a choice between a gun class, a firearm, and feeding their family. Thing with Inner Peace, when we said, hey, we need an opportunity for women of color, actually all women, to come together. Same thing, $50 a year, you get all of this training, you can come together, you have a support system, we're able to partner with ranges. We've got to start waiting on the government to take care of everything, because to your original question, I do agree that training is necessary, but we can't make it necessary if it's going to marginalize people. So we have to, within ourselves, within our own communities, we have to create these organizations. And that frankly means some of us can't be selfish. When 2020 took place, when COVID broke out and all this social unrest, so many Black folks became instructors so they could teach concealed carry and make money. So few gave back. That should be a problem for us. And we've got to reach back out in the community and say, hey, I understand you're trying to get your bank. I respect that. But at the same time, you owe it back to do something for the community that's going to benefit all of us. The government is not going to do it. And frankly, we don't want the government in that bit of business. We don't want that.
Absolutely. And this is the reason that I'm not there anymore, but this is the reason that I started NAGA in Savannah, Georgia, because you had everything in Atlanta, everything down in Jacksonville, and we was in that suction hole. So, and we started with a lot of retired military, but a lot of new gun owners as well. So we gave a lot of free classes to the community. And Maybe Defense gave a lot of free classes to the community. As much as I like training with guns, this can never be my main source of income, because I always want to be in a position that I can give back. You know what I mean? Because I'm on a mission, as well as you are, to train as many responsible Black gun owners as I can, and I'm unapologetic about it. You know what I mean? So I'll never use this as my main source of income to do that, because you're right, a lot of people can't afford it. But I think training is necessary. I think training is very necessary. You have to have that confidence when using a firearm. It's a little more than just pointing that thing and pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's very easy to make it available. You know, we recorded, I think, 3 or 4 videos on YouTube. Send people the links. It goes over safety, how to use a firearm. Simple. And it's there. It took me 1 hour. And there have been hundreds of people who have watched that video, and hopefully it will keep someone safe. We can all do our part and make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I got 2 questions for Dr. Allen and Corey, and begin chime in too if you want to. So first question is, Corey, you touched on a little bit, like gun training in schools for children. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? And the second question is, felons, nonviolent felons who come back into the society, should they be able to own guns? Those are my 2 questions.
Okay, to answer both of your questions, yes and yes. Right. So one thing is, children should get training. And you know what? There's a law in Illinois, but I could tell you one thing. Let me show you how the bias works in Illinois. There's downstate Illinois and there's Chicagoland. There's a law in Illinois that you can teach hunter's education in your curriculum at the school. You can teach that.
Really? Okay.
Right? But here's the thing.
They're still not teaching critical race theory, so they got room for it.
Here's the thing. CPS doesn't want to teach that. They don't want to teach hunter's education.
Right.
Because of what does it involve? Safety. Right? And learning how to put food on your table without the government.
Right.
Right? So then also, brothers who have, there are some brothers out there, brothers and sisters that have gotten out of jail and have straightened their life up tremendously. I mean, 100%. All it took was that one time, and sometimes it may take the 2 times. Sometimes it may take 3. But it's brothers that come home and say, I just want to be able to protect my family, take care of my family, and be the rock that my family needs. Yes. And now, here's my thing with felons, right? I want them to come back, and brothers that are felons, see, they have to come together. They have to come together and say, let's fight for our rights back. Right. But with that being known in some states, people don't know the law. Right? In Texas, if you have a non-forcible felony, you can get your gun rights back within 5 years. In Illinois, at 20 years after you have served your sentence, 20 years after you have served your sentence, and it's a non-forcible felony, you can get your void card back. Right?
20 years?
Yes, 20 years in Illinois.
They might as well say they don't want to give it to you.
Yeah.
They don't. They just don't. They just want to give it. They just want to say that we did that. No, they don't. This is Illinois. This is a very anti-gun state. This is a very government-controlled place. They want to control every aspect of your life. But I digress. So one thing is brothers that have changed their life around and have taken care of their family, have done tremendous things in their community, right? They should be able to get their rights back. They should be able to defend their family. They shouldn't have to worry about prosecution if someone breaks into their house and they wind up shooting them. They shouldn't worry about that type of prosecution.
Right.
Yep.
And to touch back on the other point on the first question, yes, I think every single child in the United States of America should learn how to properly use a firearm. Yes, we should make that a part, and it was a part of our curriculum back when we were young. It wasn't when I was young, but I know I've talked to a lot of, I say, wiser men, right? They back in the day. They at least had a 22 long rifle, especially if they was in JR and ROTC. They had at least training with that 22 rifle, right? And that right there, you got to think about it, right? What did that instill in us? That instilled the discipline and firearm knowledge, which everyone should know and which everyone should have.
Yep.
I agree. Dr. Allen, your thoughts?
I agree. I don't know if I have much to add. I 100% agree with everything he said. And in terms of, felonies, I also agree. Every single person who has had a felony, who has served time, needs to talk to an attorney. Many people do not know the laws, and they're not going to be published in a way that people are ultimately aware unless they dig to know whether or not their rights can be instated. The key word there is, regardless of your personal opinion of what the person has or hasn't done, it is a right, just like a right to vote. Right? Once you've served your time, you've fulfilled your punishment. In my opinion, you then should have your rights back. whatever those rights might be. And we don't have a right, in my opinion, to discriminate against people based on their past for that.
Oh yeah, I agree with both of you all.
Absolutely.
Well, can I say one thing before you start, brother?
Yes, sir.
In Illinois, they gave the felons the right to vote here, right? They gave that back, right?
Right.
They didn't give them their gun rights back.
There's no difference. You know, in my opinion, what's the difference? A right is a right.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost like a 3/5 rule. We need your vote, but nothing else.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Right. We can't discriminate against rights and pick and choose. You know, that should be consistent.
Well, it's just like one of y'all said, they have to come together and just say, okay, we all in the same boat. We have to come together and find out what, like Dr. Allen said, of course, we have to find out what the rights are. We have to advocate to get our rights back because we served our time. We're doing good things in the community. We haven't been in trouble since then. We have a family. We take care of our children, all that good stuff. So why can't I be a citizen now?
Absolutely.
You know, when you're incarcerated, you are a slave of the state. You know what I mean? You are another slave of the state. And after you've done your time, America has a problem with continually holding you to that crime. You know, if I was sentenced to 5 years and I did 5 years or 3 years and 2 years probation, then I'm no longer a slave of the state. I've served my time. That's the time you gave me for my crime. But America continually punishes people, and they don't want to let them go. And America thrives off recidivism, especially with the private corporation. They don't want to let people go. So, you know, you got crazy people out here with guns and people who made a mistake in their life come out and can't even get a gun. So, but you guys are facing some challenges down there in Illinois, brother. Keep fighting down there, man.
I got to keep fighting this fight. It's a thankless job, but hey, got to keep fighting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very, very true. Very true. They need more like you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got about 5 minutes left. I certainly didn't think that I thought we would be able to get to everything, but I certainly do want to continue the conversation because if you guys can come on next week, same time, it would be much appreciated. I want to have a conversation about focus on a solution.
Yes.
What can we do? What is the way forward? What measures can we put in place to make it a better place for gun owners?
Yeah.
So, but before we get out of here, I'd like for you both to do a plug for your show, how people can get in contact with you, how can they listen to your podcast? You know, put your modesty to the side and promote yourself a little bit because people want to know. So we'll start with you, Dr. Allen. Ladies first.
This is hard. So you can get in touch with me through one of two websites, e3personaldefense.com, which is our firearms industry business, or innerpeace.com. That's INHER, and peace is PIECE. That's our women's gun club. You can get in touch with us that way. My podcast, of course, I'm a pastor, so it is a Christian podcast that airs every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. called The Favor Factor, where we basically talk about scriptural relevance in a real world. We're not deep. We're about living real life out here and helping one another. So I would love to hear from you if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. And thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Great, doctor. All right, I am coming out with a website soon. It's in the works right now, being built for Locked and Loaded Firearm Podcast. We do have some tremendous shows. We have Philip Smith, the president of NAGA, of the National African American Gun Association. I brought on a brother named Marcus Allen Weldon. He talked about his self-defense story and all the trials and tribulations he had to go through. So check out Locked and Loaded Firearm Podcast soon to come. I'm still lining them up.
What platform is your podcast on, and when does it come on?
It's gonna be on my website. I'm gonna release some through YouTube, and I'm gonna release some through. It's not live. It's all pre-recorded, but I'm gonna release through YouTube, and I'm gonna release through. I want to say. I'm looking at Patreon, maybe going with Patreon, but
okay.
I'm still working out through the details with that. But I'm definitely coming with a lot of stuff that the Black community needs to know, needs to hear about it, especially if you get into a self-defense situation. I am on Instagram. You can find me on Lock and Load 0351. You can find me on Facebook, Corey Brooks. You can find me at Red Hill Gunsmithing on Instagram and on Facebook. So yes, Red Hill Gunsmithing. That is my company. I am a gunsmith. I will be. I'm still, but my FFL is still pending. So just give me time with that. But I am. I'm a jack of all trades. So I got holsters to make. I got some of my firearms I need to clean. Because I run them dirty. And yeah, so training counselor with USCCA. And if you want to look for class, look on USCCA, type in Red Hill Gunsmith, and I will pop up and you see my smile. Team.
Absolutely. You guys are doing the most, and we need it. We need it. Good Lord, we need it. So, Dr. Pastor Allen, I hope I was good on this show. I really try to watch my mouth.
Well, you didn't do no cussing today, huh? You didn't do no cussing, huh?
I didn't do no cursing today.
On great behavior, great behavior.
So I'm trying to keep that up. But hey, I thank you guys for joining us. I hope you take the time to join us next week. Douglas Jefferson, who's the vice president of the National African American Gun Association, he couldn't make it on today, but I'm hoping he can get on next week to share some of his insight as well and tell us a little bit about NAGA. Brother Reggie, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, man. Glad to be back, man. Hey.
Glad to be back after quite some time. Glad to be back. We are in different locations, but still doing our thing.
That's right. Technology.
All right. Well, y'all have a good night, and thank you for joining Voices in the Struggle. You main man, Big Ant.
I'm Brother Reggie.
And we're out. Peace.
Right.
Thank you.
like that.